Well, we continue our special Celebrating Spartans series tonight, looking at how MSU students, staff, and faculty impact our world. And you know, the Daytona 500 is kicking off the NASCAR season this weekend.
Absolutely. And 6 Sports reporter Jay Sarkar joins us now with the story of an MSU professor who actually developed a life-saving device for drivers.
Hart Jr. to the bottom of the track. Jr. will win at Daytona.
It's the fastest sport in the country.
What happens behind them?
And one of the most dangerous.
They don't mind seeing big crashes, but they don't want the guy. They want the guys to get up and get out of the car and wave at the crowd.
In the 1990s, basilar skull fractures were a common cause of death among NASCAR drivers, but it was the death of a legend that sparked widespread change.
But after the accident in turn 4 at the end of the Daytona 500, we've lost Dale Earnhardt.
Goes you forward in the car.
Enter former Michigan State professor Robert Hubbard and his head and neck support device, or HANS for short, which exploded in popularity after the Earnhardt tragedy.
It definitely changed the industry.
Hubbard's device was a simple concept, but it was ahead of its time. Drivers began wearing the device regularly 15 years ago. Since widespread implementation of the HANS device across NASCAR, there has not been a single death in the Sprint Cup Series.
We continue our special Celebrating Spartans series tonight. And we're showcasing students, faculty, and alumni who've impacted our world.
And tonight, we're looking at some innovations that you probably have right in your own kitchen.
And thanks to Spartans, our Haley Herzog is cooking up something special with things you probably use and see every day.
We use it in cereal, baking, and to complement a warm cookie. But the milk we know today wouldn't be the same without former Spartan G. Malcolm Trout. Trout joined the Michigan State faculty in 1928 and was a main figure in creating and perfecting what we call the homogenization process of milk. John Partridge says before the process of homogenization hit the dairy plants, all milk had a few inches of cream floating at the top caused by fat in the milk from the cow. The process redistributes the cream, creating a homogeneous milk that looks the same from top to bottom. The abundance, taste, and durability of the corn we have today is thanks to former professor and Spartan William J. Beal. Beal's journey to developing what we call hybridized corn popped when he applied Charles Darwin's theory on hybrid vigor. Darwin himself explained his enthusiasm for the idea in a letter to Beal. Lloyd Groff Copeman is the man behind many of the major features of the kitchen. Back then, bread had to be toasted one side at a time, but after his wife complained, he created his own electric toaster that toasted both sides at once, pleasing not just his wife, but every person who likes their bread toasted fast. Another one of his cool inventions was the rubber ice cube tray. Back in the day, ice trays were made out of metal, which made it hard to get the ice out. One cold day after slush started to freeze on his rubber boots, he watched as he easily let the ice crack off the sole, then realized it was the easiest solution for storing ice. But to this day, one of the most important and used inventions in the past century is the electric stove.
Ever since Gary Starkweather was a child, he was fascinated with the world of science. It was at Michigan State University that he lasered in on exactly what he wanted to do. With a degree in hand, Starkweather took the tech world by storm. It was at his first stop that people knew he was onto something that may revolutionize the way we take things for granted today.
It was very huge, very huge. He was cutting-edge technology at that time.
I was always fascinated by how things worked.
Among the nearly 600 Nobel Prize winners since 1901, only one has received his degree from Michigan State.
Our Daniel Hamburg has the story for you tonight.
Meet Alfred Hershey. Born in 1908 in Owasso, Dr. Hershey got his bachelor's degree in 1930 from what was then Michigan State College and received his PhD in bacteriology in 1934. His famous blender experiment with Martha Chase in 1952 proved that DNA, not protein, was the code for life. And that experiment led him to win a Nobel Prize for Medicine 17 years later.
What you could do is you could put your DNA in these little slots.
MSU professor Chris Waters, who teaches microbial genetics, says Hershey's findings led to the field of genetics and opened the door to modern forensics, cancer research, and much more.
A large tumor had formed on Sydney's pituitary gland, which is actually located right in the middle of the brain. Now, symptoms of Cushing's disease can look like other health issues. For example, weight gain, a round moon face, stretch marks, facial hair, and also acne. Sydney had had all of those. How did you handle that? High school, which you want to go to the prom and you want to go on dates and you want to hang out with friends.
I had to become really mean.
Mean?
Yeah.
How so?
I didn't want to be bullied, so I had to be mean to people.
3 months after graduation, Sydney ended up in Sparrow Hospital in rough shape. A doctor there who'd studied with Dr. Eldasuki at MSU had a hunch Sydney might have Cushing's disease. Dr. Eldasuki was called to the hospital to take a look, did some tests, and confirmed it.
These are extremely rare diseases.
You've only seen how many cases in your lifetime?
I would say Sydney was my number 4 case.
Dr. Eldasuki and a neurosurgeon recommended the tumor be removed immediately. And they told Sydney the safest way to do it was, well, startling.
We're gonna have to take your nose off.
What? He's been considered by many to be the Michael Jordan of his profession. Dr. Anil Jain created a very powerful new facial recognition tool that locally is helping the Michigan State Police solve more crimes, making our communities safer. 30 years ago, investigators would have to look through mugshot books to identify a suspect. Now, with the help of a computer algorithm that Dr. Anil Jain, a distinguished professor in the Department of Computer Science and Engineering at MSU, created, law enforcement agencies are able to search a database of 30 million images in just a matter of seconds, going way beyond what the human brain is capable of.
We can recall only a very small number of faces, 1,000, 2,000. But in law enforcement applications, we have to compare a photo of a suspect against tens of millions of photos.
And that's paying off for law enforcement agencies nationwide, especially for the Michigan State Police.
The quicker that they're able to apprehend these people, the less victims of crime they're going to be.
Imagine walking through life not able to see. The obstacles that come along with that are endless. But in today's technical world, there are some tools to make life a little easier. The latest one, created right here at MSU, an app developed by a team of students, future software engineers, one of them who is blind herself.
It's just been very rewarding and very fun to be able to give back to a community of people with disabilities such as myself.
So what exactly have Jordan Castor and her team done, you ask? They've created this.
A useful feature of our app is its ability to read text out loud for the visually impaired or someone learning to read.
The Intelligent Real-World Text Recognition app, an app for Windows 10 that uses the camera on a mobile device to recognize text written on documents, business cards, signs, virtually anything. The app then can read the text out loud,
text found,
call or save a phone number,
call button double tap to activate,
send an email, or put an address on a map.
Well, welcome back. We continue our Celebrating Spartans series tonight with meteorologist Jim Geyer, who tells us how an MSU professor's smart laser will actually change the way that doctors detect skin cancer. Very fascinating.
Yeah, smart laser. This laser has been in the making for years. I went over to MSU's chemistry building to check out exactly how it works.
What we'll do is we'll start where that biopsy scar was, right here. Okay.
Last November, a biopsy was done on a small patch of skin on my ear after my dermatologist said it looked suspicious.
So we'll go back and forth until all the skin cancer is removed.
2 weeks later, it was diagnosed as skin cancer and was removed 5 weeks later. That process could have been shorter with the use of a smart laser.
I have been working on applications of ultrafast lasers starting in 2001, when it was, at that time, it was more conceptual. What could be possible?
15 years later, thanks to the work of Professor Marcos Dantos, the possible is now real, and the goal of detecting skin cancer without an invasive biopsy is within reach.
One of the things that we're most interested in is to have a system that if the dermatologist has some doubt and sees some mole or something, that they can immediately put that piece of skin, of course, without cutting it. They can just bring the microscope and look at it on the spot, and at that point they can see what kind of cancer, because there are at least 3 major types of skin cancers, how deep it is, and how urgent is the surgery. And just being able to do that on your first visit to the doctor would cut out from 2 weeks to 1 month. Now we're working on this detection of cancer, and it's looking like the technologies and everything are going very well.
Professor Dantus showed me how the laser could see below the surface of the skin, using a tomato as an example.
This microscope can see individual cells, and not only do we see what's on the surface, but this laser is able to have a focal plane inside of the tissue.
Clinical tests are already underway at the University of Illinois and UC Irvine, with help from the laser developed at MSU.
The laser that we developed here has a better than 80% greater depth resolution than the one that is being tested at the University of California, Irvine. And that's why they wanted to know if we can bring the laser. So my student took the laser, and they were really impressed.
It won't be long before smart laser technology is available to dermatologists to use in their own office as the preferred way to look at suspicious cells.
Mr. Guy, we've got great news for you. All the skin cancer is removed.
And as someone who has had skin cancer and had it treated, there's one thing that every doctor and patient want to hear.
Well, it works every time and it doesn't cause harm.
Wow, Jim, I think it's very impressive. You can learn so much at your very first visit.
Yeah, speeding up the process,
Right.
that makes all the difference in the world when you're talking cancer as well. And the laser right now just in clinical trials, just at UC Irvine and at the University of Illinois. The goal, to have that laser available in every dermatologist's office.
Wow. We continue our Celebrating Spartans series tonight with a story about a cancer drug that has saved countless lives. In fact, it's become known as a miracle drug when treating testicular cancer. And as our Lauren Thompson tells us tonight, in many cases, it's virtually cured the deadly disease in just a matter of weeks. And it was developed at Michigan State University.
That's right. A professor at MSU led the charge in the development and eventual FDA approval of the drug cisplatin, and what a difference it's made. 40 years ago, testicular cancer was a death sentence. Nearly 90% of testicular cancer patients died because it's such a fast-moving form of cancer. But today, 95% not only survive, but are cured of the disease.
And I still look back like, what just happened?
It's been a roller coaster ride for Tyler Navin and his family. Just last spring, after battling unexplained back pain, he got a diagnosis he never saw coming.
I did a x-ray on my chest because I also was having some chest pain, and that's when my family doctor was like, whoa.
Stage 3 testicular cancer was quickly taking over Tyler's body. But as he, his wife, and 3 daughters faced the fear of cancer together, some good news. Testicular cancer can be treated and even cured quickly thanks to a so-called miracle drug.
When we see a patient with testicular cancer, say, hey, we can do a good job for this patient usually.
Dr. Muhammad Hamdan is the Sparrow oncologist who treated Tyler. He says a chemo drug called cisplatin helped save Tyler's life.
This is like the penicillin-like for oncology.
While cisplatin is used to treat numerous forms of cancer, Dr. Hamdan says the cisplatin regimen is a game changer for testicular cancer, in some cases eradicating tumors almost immediately.
After the first treatment, back pain was completely gone. My neck went down, the lymph nodes went down.
But even with those instant effects, the treatment with cisplatin is grueling.
It was 5 days, 7 hours per day in a row.
That went on for 12 weeks, and Tyler's hair fell out as he battled nausea, all while being flushed with fluids to protect his kidneys from the toxicity of the drug.
I lost about 40 pounds in probably less than a month.
But 3 months later, Tyler walked out of Sparrow completely cancer-free, having no idea that the powerful drug that had just saved his life was developed just a few miles away at MSU. The brainchild behind it, this man, Barnett Rosenberg.
He apparently came out to the crowd of graduate students and made a comment to the effect that I've just found a new anti-cancer agent.
That was 1965, and just 3 years later, cisplatin, a platinum-based drug, was shown to shrink large tumors.
It was a very exciting time, as you can imagine.
James Heschley was an MSU student during the cisplatin discovery era, then later worked alongside Rosenberg in his lab. From 1968 to 1972, Heschley says Rosenberg's lab on campus was buzzing as a team of scientists worked to develop the drug and send it to clinical trials. Trials it almost never passed due to its toxicity on the body.
That was my role. I was to do the distribution studies and where did it go and what organs did it hit and how long did it stay.
Those findings showed cisplatin to be especially lethal to the kidneys. Heschley says they feared the drug would never be approved by the FDA because of it. But then another major discovery, as a study on cisplatin showed, when paired with 2 other drugs, the effects on testicular cancer were astounding.
Cisplatin saved testicular cancer, but testicular cancer saved cisplatin.
And now, decades later, cisplatin continues to be the backbone of treatment for testicular and many other cancers.
I would say 60% of cancer utilize cisplatin one way or the other.
It's been an amazing success story.
A success story that's saved countless lives, including Tyler's. Today, he's healthy, back on his bike, racing more than 30 miles at a time, all while realizing every moment he has with his family is a gift.
I keep hearing these stories of friends or friends of family that have cancer, and sometimes it's like, wow, why am I the lucky one?
Through the years, royalties on the drug cisplatin have brought in more than $330 million to MSU to support sciences on campus, helping countless other Spartans move on to do great things.
Well, tonight is the biggest musical night of the year, the Grammys. But the Grammy Foundation does more than just dish out awards. It actually helps fund research projects, including one at Michigan State University.
Interesting. Our special Celebrating Spartans series continues tonight with a topic that actually affects 70 million people worldwide, and that's stuttering.
And according to the Stuttering Foundation, roughly 5% of all children go through a period of stuttering. Most of them recover. But for the ones who don't, it's really tough to carry on a simple conversation.
Our Siobhan Plouffer explains how a newly developed computer game may be a game changer.
I was extremely self-conscious for a period, extremely self-conscious. And I felt that my stutter got to a crippling point.
More than 3 million people in the United States stutter. Bilal Fahoudi is one of them. He first noticed the speech problem when he was very young and for some reason hasn't grown out of it. He's among the 1% of adults who still stutter.
In this game, you will hear Randy play his drum twice. Listen as he does it now.
But this computer game, developed by MSU professor Devin McCauley and a colleague from the University of Michigan, may be the key to unlocking some answers.
Some kinds of music, like tango, a lot of the music is off the beat and you have to feel the beat. Ed Sheeran had a song out called Thinking Out Loud. You can sort of see they're dancing to something, to a non-existent beat.
I'm thinking about how people fall in love in mysterious ways.
And so we had a hunch or a hypothesis that children who stutter might have more difficulty sort of feeling a beat when it wasn't actually there.
Doggy Different doesn't want to copy Randy, so he always plays a different rhythm back to Randy.
Dr. McCauley had 20 young kids who stutter and 20 kids who don't sit through this game, which is roughly 20 minutes long. The results, groundbreaking.
Separate from any differences in IQ or language ability, that the children who stuttered had lower scores or more difficulty telling the difference between these rhythms, and in particular the ones where they had to sort of feel a beat in their head. So that was very exciting because this was the first study to show sort of a pure perceptual difference, and a subtle one that was tied to sort of being able to generate a beat in your head.
Great job! You just earned another sticker.
Professor McCauley says several other studies have confirmed his findings which will hopefully lead to new rhythm-based therapies and interventions in the future and hopefully help kids and adults overcome stuttering.
You just earned another sticker.
I'm really good at this game.
Bilal has tried therapy to no avail, but he's not letting a speech impediment impact his future because to him, actions speak louder than words.
If I stutter, then I stutter. Like, if I stutter, then I stutter. Yeah. This interview went pretty well right now.
You don't like it? Then
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
I
No, like, I feel like this went pretty well right now. Like, I'm surprised I only stuttered like 2 or 3 times.